picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Well, hello and welcome. It is the last week in November. It's Thanksgiving week, and we're going to build a model. And while most people are surrounding themselves with turkey this week, I have chosen to surround myself with eagles. Let's begin. Okay, as you can see, I have a desktop full of eagles. I have the original, the OG, the grandpappy of eagle models, the 12-inch eagle, the wonderful and beautiful 22-inch eagle model from round 2, and what we are going to be starting on this week is the brand new 14-inch eagle. And you may say, well, why do we need another eagle? Well, we need an eagle because this grandpappy, as beautiful as it is, and as much of a workhorse as it ever has been, sorry, here, chair squeaking, that's my advanced weight. Much of a workhorse as this is, it is also what they used to call box scale, which means it was the scale that fit in a box, that the box looked nice on the shelf, and it was not a specific scale. And last, I guess, geez, a year or so ago, maybe two, round 2 released their 1/72 Hawk. Well, this new kit is a response to that, because this is what they're calling a true 1/72 scale eagle, and it makes it 14 inches. So it's going to be a little bit longer. If I line all these up on the nice new cutting board, I hope you appreciate the nice new cutting board and ooh and ah over it. This comes out at 12 inch. This comes out at 22 inches, almost stem to stern there. And the new one is going to be 14, so it's going to come to about here. It's going to fit very nicely in this slot right here. And I got the kit on Saturday. Today is Monday, and I'm looking through and seeing exactly what this kit entails and what it has, what it doesn't have. What I largely suspected was that it would be a simple downsizing of the 22-inch kit. After all, the hard work has been done. All of the CAD work, all of the intensive, a lot of the R&D had been done. So it's a simple downscaling. And that's true, and it's not true. It's true in the respects that it is a much more proportionally accurate version of the eagle, but there are some things, obviously, once you get down to this size, you have to simplify. As such, the spring-loaded landing gear on the 22-inch is gone in this 14-inch. You can live with that. They offer two options. You can build it with the landing gear extended, or the landing gear compressed, as if it's sitting on its landing gear under full weight. And that's what I'm going to do mine extended, because they also give you this neat stand that allows you to hold it up at a weird angle. But this right here, this is what allows a kit like this to be made in today's market. There are 4 identical trees right there, and then here is 2 more. I mean, because you don't have to do as much tooling to do an eagle and shoot multiple copies of each tool, that makes it a more practical kit to make than something where every single sprue and tree and whatever is unique and different. That makes it a more costly project. So that's why you would get a new eagle, when you would think perhaps there are better ways for round 2 to spend their money. But obviously, one of the things we're not going to have in the smaller eagle is we're not going to have a clear windows and cockpit feature. We don't have that on. I love the way these guys are just kind of hanging in midair. We don't have that in this new version. We have we still have the 3-piece. The 3-piece. There's the back of the cockpit. There is the two identical pieces of the cockpit. Again, that's what allows you to make two identical shots of the same mold, or the same, use the mold twice. But they give you decals. If you want to put your pilots in the windows, you can use the decals. If you want to bore those out and put your own clear windows in behind there, you certainly could if you wanted to. There's room for it. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody with the initials of Paul wouldn't be coming up with a photo etch cockpit to go in there. But that's not something that you get out of the kit. So this promises to be a quick build. I'll probably get this done even with the holiday in the week. I will obviously be first downscaling my painting masks to see whether or not a simple downscaling will work, or whether we will need to do some additional designing. We might have to simplify those as well. The decals that come with the kit that cover the black spots, again, I will be making these so that you can paint those black bits on there and not have to rely on using the rely on using decals for that. So let's start tearing these bags open and get started. Okay, one last comparison before I put the comparison models away is this is the round 2 1/72nd scale Hawk. And here is the 1/72nd scale Eagle next to it, the cockpit. And I'm kind of surprised. I thought the Hawk would be larger than that in comparison. For some reason, I assumed the Hawk was bigger than that. Not as big as an Eagle, obviously, but bigger than that. So the things you live and learn. But what we're going to do, what I'm going to start with, I think off the bat, is doing the simple things like putting the cargo pod together. I haven't decided which version I'm going to paint. I've kind of done the rescue pods every time I've built this kit, and it's nice and all, but I think I might want to do something different. I think I may want to do the VIP this time, which makes this all very orange. And you know how much I love my orange, but it fits with the orange of the 72nd scale Hawk. So, oddly enough, and I don't know, it's kind of strange that this is shot in a creamy ivory. I don't know how it's coming out on camera, but if these instructions are white, then you can get an idea of what color the plastic is here. On the styrene is kind of, I won't say yellow, but dingy. It's a creamy ivory colored vinyl or styrene. So interesting bit here is that this detail seems to be missing in here. There should be separate window panes in here, because I know that because I normally put window masks there. So I'm going to have to see if there's an insert that I'm missing somewhere, or what can be done about that. Here you can see again what I was talking about as far as duplication. There's one independent tree here. There's 2 of these, there's 2 of these, there's 4 of these, and there's 4 of these. And it doesn't get any more economical than that when you are designing a kit. This is very well laid out, very well thought out. And again, look at the level of detail they're able to capture. That's just, to me, that's almost resin level detail. And you got no problems duplicating even the smallest rivet bolts showing up there. So kudos to round 2 on this one. Those are going to hold detail very nicely, or hold washes and stains very nicely. And really, this is the bane. Every kit has its bane, and this is the bane of the Eagle, is sanding this, the joint between the top and bottom of the head parts, sanding that seam nice and smooth. So did a pretty good job. It did an excellent job on the 22-inch one, and this is the same thing, only reduced, but getting that clean is going to be the important one, the important seam of all of these. The rest of them, they've kind of hidden the seam lines where the parts break or change direction, And that's just good engineering, but that's the one that can't be avoided. You gotta get that one nice and clean. Good morning, welcome back. It is Tuesday, and you know, this is a time of year when folks get nostalgic and you rely on your traditions. Here I am building a model with a cup of hot cocoa in my Enterprise mug, and I'm thinking back on all the fine traditions in my life, and building this eagle reminds me of what was probably one of the more unexpected traditions, and that is somewhere down the line, round 2 is going to make a mistake on their instructions. They're going to screw up some simple thing because they could have passed it by one more proofreader or somebody who actually builds the kit. And here is this year's, what I'm calling the 2019 annual screw up of round 2's instructions. It's a small one, but be aware. What I've done since yesterday is take all of the things out of the clamps that I had up, and I'm sanding them down and getting rid of some seams and all that kind of stuff. Still too cold outside to hit them with a coat of primer, so I am sanding them and putting them aside, and I'm pulling out other things that I can be building up while I'm waiting for it to warm up outside. So I decided to tackle the engine bells. There are 3 sizes of engine bells. The main engines, the ones that go under the cargo kit, and then there's the ones that go on the frame. So there's 3 sizes, and they are delineated by 49, 50, 52, 53, 55, and 54. And it says do this times 4. Okay, this one, no problem, easy enough. Can't mistake that one. This one, however, if you follow the illustrations to put the 2 pieces together, you'll get a good result. And again, follow the illustrations. The numbers, however, are incorrect. If you're following it by the numbers, you are going to be running afoul of what you need to be doing. First of all, the numbers on these sprues are devilishly hard to see. The big bell is in fact number 54. I'm trying to get this at an angle so where you can even see them. Okay, the big bell is 54. That matches 54. Small bell is 55. That matches 55. Okay, big bell, no problem. Where we run into problems is the piece that in the instructions says it is 52, and you can tell because it has the narrow tip, which matches this illustration. 52 is in fact, let me flip it over, is in fact 49. It's 49 on the tree, but it is 52 in the drawing. It clips into 53, which is 50 on the tree. That's the smaller of the 2 bells. Smaller of the 2 bells goes with this. Larger of the 2 bells goes with that. So this one and this one go together, which is 50 and 49. This one is 50 and 49, not this one being 50 and 49. This one is 50 and 49. The other 2 are 53 and 52. It's 53, so the numbers are here, but this number should be over here, this number should be over. You get the idea. Don't follow these numbers, follow what they are on the tree itself. You'll want to use this bell with this piece, and this bell, or this bell with this piece. You'll get the good results that you want. See, here are the build-up results, and it's not like I'm screwing up something, because these 2 parts will not fit. The holes and pegs will not fit if you mix them up. But the part numbers are wrong. So that concludes your annual holiday screw up on the round 2 plans. These are the first ones I found. Wouldn't be surprised if I find another. It's sort of like an advent calendar. You're trying to figure out what the surprise is going to be for this day. But now we can get back to our regularly scheduled assembly line building of the Eagle. Okay, so if you can see the parts hanging and decorating the workbench like a Christmas tree, I have put primer coats on some of the inner parts, like these cages. I want to get those primed before I put the next bit of parts around them. Then I'll get them all nice and grayed up before we can build. We have to kind of build this from the inside out. Once you've put all this cage together, it's tough to get paint inside there, so got to paint those before you put the outside cages on, and that's where we're at. So we're at a nice place for it to dry, so I need to go get some orders in the mail, and we're at the post office, so I'll run out and be back soon. Okay, I'm back. It's still Tuesday afternoon. Done some playing around with all of this plumbing that has to be done. No easy trick, I'll tell you, because the illustrations are not that clear. But here we are, and it's time for what's rapidly becoming my new favorite feature, and that is what's wrong with the instructions this time. Well, here we go. We're building the passenger cabin, or the cargo pod, or whatever you're going to call it. We go from step 21, where you're putting the 4 walls on the floor, to step 22, where you're putting the roof onto the 4 walls, and you get something like this. There is no step. There is no step that explains that, hey, you got to put the 4 details here. They're already in on the illustration. I don't know if perhaps at one point they were considering molding those in, and that's why they didn't need to add them as a separate part, but you have got to stick those down. And no, I did not find anything here that that delineates the windows, and that's going to be a bit of a problem. So I may have to come up with some sort of vinyl insert there that puts the window frames in. Okay, I had to do a quick check on the 22-inch version that I have to tell me that, see that line there where you've got large sections and small sections here? Those should point to the inside. These short sides here should point in from both directions, like this. Now, not something that's spelled out, but there you go. It's equally easy to put those in upside down by mistake, but that's how they should go. Good morning and welcome back. It is Thanksgiving Eve. It is Wednesday, and I have a feeling we're going to get some stuff done today, some stuffing done today as we work on our Thanksgiving bird. Working on developing the templates for it, and sad to say, no, I couldn't simply just size down my 22-inch decal painting mask set because some of the dimensions are slightly different. I don't know. That's just the way it works. And plus, we're going to do something a little bit different on the 14-inch Eagle than we did on the 22. Probably closer to what we've done on the 12-inch Eagle in the past, and that is for these windowsills, for these window indents, what I'm going to recommend is that we paint all of them black first, and then mask the black, and then paint the white over top of it. These will handle the top and side windowsills. There are decal inserts here that they're decal inserts if you want to use the people, or you can leave them, paint them black if you like. Now, here's the thing about that is the windows, there's a white frame around the outside of just this part. There's no window frame down the center here like there is with the Hawk. That's a black line. There's no white line in there. Shouldn't be a white line break. So the mask that I've got for these window fronts is slightly smaller than this area, and you need to center that so that you can paint the white. When it comes to it, I will show that in more detail. But you might want to consider blocking those and leaving them completely white if you're going to use the people decals, because I think they would show up better against a white background than they would against the black background. I, for one, am going to make them all completely black. I'm not that big a fan of the quality of the photos that they chose for those decal inserts, so I won't be using those. Also, we will be painting the, see if I've got one in as an example. Yes, we will be painting these directional thruster markings, what I used to call the Maltese cross here. We will be painting that entire area black, and then we will be masking the black so that when we paint the white over top of it, you get a nice black reveal. And also the underneath. Now, in the larger eagle, this was all one cross shape, but since I've already got this little bit of a cage already in there, plus the stand for the landing gear is molded in, this is no longer a flat shape where you can get to it easily. So I'm just going to mask off the four sides of it, or paint it all black, mask off the four sides of it, and then you can paint your white over top of it. And when you peel these off, you'll get the black underneath. I do this only because these are the large black areas that are also covered on the decals. And hey, if you want to use the decals, more power to you. But when I get decals that large, particularly if they're one solid color, to me it makes more sense to paint them. That way you can weather over top of them. You can, put your washes over top of them, or your scorches and whatnot, and they're more consistent with the rest of the paint that you've got on the rest of your kit. And that is why. One piece that I am cooking up that hopefully will alleviate this problem is I'm going to make a frame that fits completely in here. And let me pull that out and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, here's what I've got. This is a frame of vinyl, comes off of the sheet like this. A frame of vinyl that, and I'm not going to do this now because it takes more precision than I can do with only one hand, but it fits down into these depressions and it gives you that windowsill that you want to have. Plus, at the same time, it also gives you the windows, the window shapes you want to use, because you use those guys right there, and those are exactly cut to fit that, so those will be your windows. So what I suggest you do is you put this in, and you probably want to do it even before you put the primer coat on. You put this in, and then you paint your primer over it, and it becomes a dimension, and I will go ahead and do that next. And get back, and then when it comes, then you paint black over it, obviously, and then you put the windows in to protect that black while you are painting the rest of the colors. And like I said, I will show that off as we get into the actual painting of said cargo module. Also working on a mask for the outside edge of the door. That's important if you are going to be doing the VIP module where everything is orange except there is a white outline. Let me see if I can find an example here on the box. Yeah, if you want to mask the door, oops, where is it? There you go. If you want to mask the door, you're going to need to be able to mask off the perimeter of that and then put a door mask on it so that the door is nice and orange. So actually, looks like I might not even need that this thin outline, but I'll put it in there in case you want to make your own variation. But obviously it also includes the door, and then you just do stripes around, straight painter's tape around that to mask that off. But that's the kind of stuff I'm working on today. But I'm mostly interested in getting some of this preliminary construction done. Things like the cages and these I can paint, and then what I want to do is paint the white on like these before I stuff them into there, because you won't necessarily be able to get into all of the angles. This cage here I can paint pretty much as it is, and things like the side cages, what I call the Bobo walls. We'll get into all of that. So let's stop the yapping and start the painting. Okay, here are the 4 sets of window frames put in place. Now you want to make sure you save these guys, because you're going to need them to block out the black that you're going to paint over top of those. But that gives you that little bit of dimension that is missing. So let's get, I think we're ready to start painting the black areas now. And maybe even, yeah, we'll go ahead and paint the black areas now because we know those are done. Those are ready for masking. And I'm going to use that NATO black again. I'm not going to use the darkest of blacks. It worked very well on the Moon Bus. I think it will work very well on this because of the scale of the kit. Alrighty, I've just done some I've done the black painting plus some pre-shading on some other bits. I'd like to get the Bobo cages done, and you know why I call them the Bobo cages, because that looks like B-O-B-O to me. So I call them the Bobo cages, and they're the ones that they circulate, they surround these guys. And that's what the 4 shoulder pods fit into. Alrighty, you can see I'm putting the masks in. I've got the black paint behind them, and I'm putting the masks in over them. Now, if you are of a cautious sort, and you want to belt and suspenders, you may want to run a little piece of tape down the very edge there, just in case you're afraid of any black or any white paint creeping up over that, or you could go back in and touch that with black paint later on. These are supposed to be undersized because there are white window frames around those windows. So that's when you spray this whole thing white again, you will get the white lines there. But because we're going to be putting on the white paint maybe a little heavier than normal, only because it's covering black and you really need to do that more than you might want to, then you may want to make sure these are pressed down nice and tight so that they don't run the risk of the paint creeping up underneath them. And again, like I said, if you're worried about that seam, you could run a little tiny piece of either scrap vinyl or painter's tape. Alrighty, I just did a lightning round of white paint. Probably be the first of a couple maybe, because I don't want to put too much on too heavy. But I've whitened over top of the masks there. Obviously have whitened over top of the masks and the window frames. And if you look over here, you can see I have whitened over the masks on the shoulder pods. So while all this stuff is hanging around like little plastic bats, I will walk away and let this dry, and then I'll come back and do the washes on this. I think that's the next step, is to add the washes and the griming and stuff. Okay, I think things have had enough time to dry to the point where we can do some final backbone. Show a little backbone, will you? We're going to do some backbone building. I'm going to put the put these cages together and maybe get them joined up to the backbone and get the Bobo cages done. So let's get on with it. Okay, this is all we're going to get done tonight. No sense rushing through it. I've got basically 2 more days, and I don't think it's going to take that long. Even though tomorrow is the big holiday, that still shouldn't take all of Friday, or tomorrow and Friday, to get finished. This is going along pretty quickly, so we will let it stay there for the night. Good morning and happy Thanksgiving. I hope you all have had by this time a wonderful Thanksgiving and had as much food as you could take and as little family as you could take. Or maybe phrase that differently. As much family as you like and as much food as you would like. But I have a couple of hours yet before I need to go tie the feed bag on over at my sister's. So I'm going to work in a little bit of work on the holiday bird this morning before I go, so that it can be drying while I'm gone. First thing what I did is I just took a card and just threw in some tones on the cargo pod. And I've decided, instead of doing the VIP pod, I was going to go ahead and do the rescue pod, because it's tradition and I like my holiday traditions. Plus, I need to show how to use the stripe templates for the template set. So that's why. Maybe after it's all done, I'll repaint it as the VIP pod, like that right there. But for right now, we're going to go with rescue pod. So I'm throwing in some tones, and I'm hoping that putting a light shade of red over it, some of these panel lines will come back through. But if not, I can repaint them on top of the red. And I'm also going to start putting in some of the detailing bits on the shoulder pods. And I'm looking at this kit, and I'm stacking it up against what I have done for the 22-inch pod. And look at all this detail. I mean, it's... I was worried about throwing enough shadows in there, but really, the kit parts themselves have enough shading going on. If anything, I need to do this outer frame a little bit brighter so that it stands out. So we're going to have to see. And it looks kind of delicate to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm used to the 12-inch Eagle at this size or the 22-inch, but the framework here looks a little bit delicate, looks a little bit too underscaled, but I will take them at their word that they have scaled everything appropriately. But what I want to do is throw in some gray panels and some stuff, like I said, on these shoulders and perhaps on the head as well. It is not glued down. Is it glued down? Did I glue that? No, I have to check. But let's get busy on this. Sorry about that. I threw hit the camera by mistake. But putting the mask down, hitting it with a little light spray, and then pulling it back off, and you get these nice, lovely, very crisp, sharp shapes. And I'm just going around doing that. And yeah, they're a little bit dark. I'm going to do, much like on the Moon Bus, I'm doing these dark, and then I'm going to put a lighter blending coat over top of all of them. But yeah, going in and filling out and having fun. That's what this painting business is supposed to be about. Okay, here's something worth noting. I'm continuing to do these painting with the masks, and these inside edges, the inside shoulder edges, don't have any raised detail on them, but you can still put some decals down, or some paint down on them. The nice thing about these templates is they are always square inside the mask perimeter. So if you're worried about getting them square, you can just line up an edge of the mask with one of the facets of the shoulder panels, and you know that that shape inside will be square, or, you know, perpendicular or whatever. So you can add some more, and as many colors and as many shapes as you want to put on. You're only limited to your own imagination, so go nuts. And then when you're done, just throw a nice blending coat over it and it'll pull it all together. I still have the masks in place for the black because I don't want to get any stray paint on those. That's the same case here and on these 4 thruster shapes. And oh, the reason you're seeing some of these that look fuzzy, what I've done is I've sprayed the area and then I'm going to mask over them. And when I do my blending coat, that will take care of the fuzzies around it, but it'll protect the full color. That's why that's there. And some of these, particularly on these circles, I have the masks already cut with circles in them. Let me see if I can find the right sheet. Let me see if I can find the right sheet. I know it's here. Yeah, like these little circle masks. I could just pop those over top of these depressed circles, and that keeps them protected. Just like that there. And I've got ones for these cutout circles that I did. And don't forget, you can always use the insides, the scrap parts of these masks for other masking, or if you want to add panel details. You certainly could pull some of these inserts out and say I want to put a panel that is that thick. I want to put one there where it's blank. Well, you could take the inside of one of these masks, and there you go. See if I can get this on the. Sorry about the wacky camera work there. But if I wanted to put one of these in place, all I would need to do is just lay it down on there. I would probably want to do that early, though. Do that before you even put your primer coats on, so that it can, you know, what I did here with these frames. It will become more integral to the kit part if it's blended underneath or if it's planted underneath the primer coat. It'll be down more solidly. But all of these parts here, these masks, you can use a variety of ways. I am going to try to pull out that circle to show you, but I have to put the camera down because it is being stubborn, and one part of the vinyl has stuck to another part of the vinyl, and that is always a tough thing to deal with. So here you can see I've got the circle mask cut out. Now try cutting that out. Imagine cutting that out with Tamiya tape. Now I'm just going to put this in place on the panel, and now I've got that inner circle masked off, the depression of the circle masked off, and I can spray over top of that. That's what that's all about, Charlie Brown. Okay, well, I think I've had enough of this fun. Every one of these you do makes, every time you've changed a color or put a shape on here, makes it your eagle. It makes it individual. This doesn't have to be a specific eagle. It can be any one of the, whatever you want it to be. If you want to make it, put flames on it, make it a hot rod. Say Alan Carter's been bored after many, many years of being on the moon, and he soups up his eagle with flames on it. If you want to do that, go nuts. Now, be aware that these will get toned down when I go and put the overall shading on them. But I think I want to, this has all been pretty much one tone, even though I've managed to get several, or one mix of color. I've been able to get several tones out of it by, spraying lightly or spraying heavily. That's, basic airbrushing. But I think I may want to throw a little bit of an accent color in here. Maybe a bluish gray before I go and put the white over it. But I'm going to let these sit while I am out feasting today. And I think one last thing I do before I go is, well, I think I may want to come back and put the red on that this evening. I don't think I want to do that now because the parades are on and I want to go watch. Well, I'm back and I'm moving kind of slow because I have well feasted and I am not moving very quickly. I stuffed myself as well as the bird. But before I go into my post-Thanksgiving Day coma, I'm going to finish this bit for the day. And I went ahead and did this much before I left and got the kinks worked out of the methodology. So now I could show you on the other side what it is exactly I'm doing. There are 9 stripes on this, if you're doing the rescue module, the rescue pod, there are 9 stripes. There are 5 red stripes and 4 white stripes. Now, since it's so much easier to paint red over top of white than it is to paint white over top of red, we painted this white first, and we put in all the panel lines and things like that. And now we're going to paint the red stripes. And to do them evenly and to get them evenly spaced, I've come up with this kooky little idea that I'm going to share with you. On the masking set, there are 2 different widths. There are, and you can see them here on the sheets that I've removed. There are this design, and then there's the 3 design. These guys here are spacers. And what we're going to do with the spacer is, since we know that to take an example, that the red is on the outside edges of both front and back, what we're going to do is we're going to put a temporary mask here and here that is the correct width of the red stripe. And that will give us the positioning for the white stripes, or what we're going to cover up to keep white, so that when we paint the red, these will areas, well, here's the example. Here's where the red, these empty spaces is where you're going to see red paint. These yellow spaces is where I'm going to try to keep this white, so that's what we're masking. We're masking off the white to keep the red paint off of it. And what we're going to do is we're going to work our way to the center, and then any sort of mismeasurement or any kind of slop we could take out of the center red stripe. Since there's very little of it, it's just a little bit on the roof and a little bit below the door. The entire door is masked off, so we can kind of make up our margins there if we need to. But first we need to put down these guys here on both sides, and that will tell us where the next ones need to go. Let me show you how that works. Okay, we're going to show you how this works from just this one end, this one side. This is the spacer put in place. There's a long piece and a shorter piece. And I just line those up with the edge, the leading edge of the pod. And this is on very loosely. It's not pushed down very much at all. But what it does is it gives me this measurement, so that when I put the masks that I want to keep down, I just lay them down beside this mask, and that helps me also keep my straight line, because I know that this is fitted all the way down, so that we know that these are parallel. What I'm going to do is put a mask here and here, and wrapping it around all these little contours, and that will keep it, that will hopefully keep this area nice and clean and keep the red paint off of it. Okay, so I've got the top one. This is the longer of the three. That starts up at this edge. You line it up at this edge of the kit, of the pod part. Smack it up against the vinyl mask you've just put down, and then wrapping it around as you go with a toothpick or other sharp implement. Follow all the contours in and out, and then it comes out something like that. We take the bottom one, and we do the same thing. We started at this point on the bottom of the pod, and we wrap it up and follow all of these dimensions as we go, and make sure we're pushing everything down into the corners. And you can use a toothpick for that, or a Q-tip or other blunted instrument. You don't want to use anything too sharp, because you don't want to run the risk of ripping that. And then that just leaves, well, let's see if I can put the camera down and do this on camera. Well, maybe not. What you do is you take the middle piece here and fit it up underneath this edge, and just make sure you're lining it up to make a nice straight edge. And then when you're done with that, you take these masks off and move them to the other side, and that gives you the spacing for the next stripe. Okay, that gives me my first full white retaining stripe on this side. And when we're done, obviously we'll tape off the center here and the bottom so that we can paint the red. But now I know how wide that is. I take that same piece. That's why you don't want to put it down you don't want to push it down too strongly, because we're going to put it right there, right next to it. And again, I'm going to move this around after I turn the camera off. But then you put it down next to it, and then apply the next set of masks, and up until you get to the end. Actually, no, what I do is I do this one, and then I start from this side and work my way to the center until I get to the last one. Okay, I've got the last ones on now, and because these spacers I don't need anymore, and they have fulfilled their mission in life, I can use them to mask off the door. So just let me pull these off of where they were. See, I've got my nice white stripes masked, and now I can pop this under here and put this one up under that ledge. These ones are a little bit easier to do with one hand, but there you go. Okay, so that masks that entire doorway off, leaving the top here and the bottom here to be in red. Tape this big thing off, and I'm ready to paint. Alrighty, we're ready to pull out the red Tamiya flat red and put a nice light coat. It shouldn't take a lot to get the coverage. Just make sure I need to press down, make sure all of my vinyl masks are down into the crevices so that no red paint creeps underneath them. And I'll do that with a toothpick, just kind of go over these very tightly. Just get them in there right inside all of that. And then a nice light coat of the red. I mean, I shouldn't have to plaster it on, but if I do end up covering over some of this tone, some of these plating tones, I can go back in with a dark red and just re-indicate those with a card and paint those in. So let's get the red paint out. Okay, I've got the red paint on, and it looks like you can still see some of the tones, but I may want to go back in anyway with just a touch of black added to the red paint, and go in and touch some of the plating and make it look like it's got some dimension to it. Alrighty, all it needs to do is for me to pull the tape off and see how we did. I'm going to give this a moment or two to dry. I just went back in with the card again, not the cardigan, not the sweater, but again with a card, and sprayed just up next to it to kind of indicate some panels. And we'll see what she came out looking like. Alrighty, I've just removed the mask from one side, and then I went back in and I took out these window masks that I had from earlier, so you can see how well those turned out. These will be painted in by hand. I've got one smidge here that I'm going to let it dry really well, and then I don't know if I can scrape enough of the red paint off or whether I need to go back in with another mask and just mask off the red and touch that with a white paint. But by and large, I'm very happy with these results. It goes all the way under to there and then stops up here. But let me take the masks off of this side and we'll see what the sum total of it is. All right, there's both sides with the mask taken off. There's still a little bit ginger. Now those sides will be repainted. That was just red overspray, but that's easy enough to mask and then spray the gray back on there. But I'm going to let this dry. The red's kind of picky. You don't want to rush it, but everything looks good. The masks are all worked on these windows. I'm going to paint those details in by hand. Don't worry about them. But a nice coat of a satin gloss on there. I think it will be just fine. Good morning, welcome back. It is what we call in the States Black Friday. I call it Gray Friday or White Friday because I am putting the white coats over the Eagle today. And as you can tell, if you remember from yesterday, I put a white blending coat over top of this, and that's knocked down the contrast of a lot of the grays. And let's see, I've got the travel pod or the rescue pod done. I need to put a clear coat on this. The first thing I did this morning, while everybody else was getting up early to shop, I got up early to work on models because that's just the kind of guy I am. And the first thing I did was take care of this problem. Well, not really a problem. It's just an issue on the travel or the cargo pod, the rescue pod, whatever pod you're going to make. It could be the P pod for all I care. It comes with a set of screws for you to screw it down through the spine and into the pod. I don't like that. It's primitive. It's last century. It is not the way we should do things. So I put in a set of magnets. And the magnets I've got are plenty strong to be picking this up. All I did was enlarge the hole that the screw was supposed to go through and then line it up with the appropriate place on the spine, pop the other magnet in there, and then I just put some of the epoxy putty around the magnet to kind of camouflage them and hold them in place, and basically to just solidify those strips. And there you go. Bada bing. And I get my magnets from, people have asked, people want to know, I get my magnets from, I'm keeping it away from the camera because these are very strong magnets. K&J Magnetics. Look them up online. They got really good prices. They've got really good choices and sizes. This happens to be the size I used, which is 1/8 by 1/16. They're a pretty good price, and they will last you a good long while. But that's it for the commercial part of our program this morning. But so I've done that, and I've also gone around and taken not the flat white, but the white, which is actually, they should call this a semi-gloss or a gloss white from Tamiya, because it has that finish to it. And I'm just hitting the big parts of the spine, the outer parts of the spine. I'm not trying to get it into each and every little nook and cranny. I'm trying to hit the outer areas, just go in here real close and just, trace them out and bring up the brightness just of this outer skeleton. And the Bobo boxes, and if you ask me why I call them Bobo boxes, It's a B and an O and a B and an O. It's Bobo. Once you've seen it, you cannot unsee it. Let's see. Oh, also working on the engine bells today. A little bit of scorching around there with some flat black. This is about the only time you'll ever see me using a straight flat black, is on engine scorching and on the inside of the engines. And we're getting ready to start putting some of these sub-assemblies together, because I've done about as much painting separately as I can. And this being Friday, I don't know if I'm going to finish today or not, because I can certainly get it all together, but whether or not I'll have it done in time to put the decals on and then the flat coat over it is the big deciding factor. Now, I still have masks on the crosses there and the underneath. I can start taking some of those off once I'm pretty sure that I have finished painting all of the grays on the shoulder pads that I'm going to. I can start taking those masks off. I'm eager to see how the windows up front look. Now, the white on the head, it's a little less, I mean, it's a little bit more obvious, a little bit more white, a little less dirty than the rest of the Eagle, because I figure, you know, that's the part you really want to keep the cleanest. It's also the part that's furthest away from all the dirt and damage. So yeah, it can be a little bit cleaner, but it sits out there something like that. And then the cages and the shoulders, and going and painting in some of the little details on the foot pads. Now, like I said, when I was doing the moon bus, the temptation is to put a lot of grease and grime, particularly around those pistons. And I may yet, but when you realize this travels through 0 atmosphere, you really wouldn't get a lot of grease buildup, I don't think, on those. But you know, the temptation is to put a little bit of a grease, particularly around the angle or the joints of the landing gear compression there, around the pistons and stuff like that. And I may just dress up a little bit of that, but it certainly wouldn't be as grungy as something that was working in an atmosphere all day long. Already, I just removed the masks from this one shoulder pad. Looking pretty good. I want to put a satin coat on there before I do anything else. Satin coat, then I need to add the tiny thruster that goes on the front. That's got the tiny engine bells on it. Maneuvering thrusters. But that circle came out very clean, and that's still the same original color because of that mask right there. Yeah, looking good, looking good. And here you go. I've just taken the masks off of this shoulder piece, and it looks pretty good. Needs to get a coat of satin on it. You can see that nice sharp circular mask there, and that is this guy right here. And but you get a nice gray out of that. This will need to be, like I said, satin coated before it's ready to be added to the skeleton, the spine here, as it were. I got both boxes put in, and I've got the fuel, rocket fuel bottles, if you will, secured. And the rescue module is in the other room drying. I put a coat of clear satin over that so that I can get ready to do the decals that go on it. The head also needs to have a satin coat on it once I get these window masks out, so that I can put the decals on that. And then it's just a touch of these there's tiny decals that go all over the shoulder pads, and we'll be into some final construction, then a flat coat over that. Luckily, there are no open windows in this, so that when I put the flat coat over it, I can kind of go nuts with that and not worry about having to keep the windows clean. Here you can see the various engines. I've got the little scorching on, and those are ready to glue in. So it's coming along nicely. Well, it's time to start thinking about the stand here, and I really think, now that I look at it, that Round 2 really missed the ball on this. They really missed an opportunity. I know this is their standard base that they use for all of their kits now. They used them for the Katinga, they used them for the Trek kits, they use them for other kit. Wouldn't that have been perfect to have done a moon, a half moon, or a moonscape, even something with craters on it? That would have been perfect for something like that. I may have to see if I can replicate some sort of lunar surface. But that's just, you know, it's just a natural that they could have molded something that had craters and moon rocks in it. I think it would have really added to the kit. I just think it's a shame. It's a missed opportunity. Oh, ain't this pretty? I just took the masks off of the shoulder pieces. That's the underside masks and the cross mask. And look at this. Even the window masks on the head came out just the way I wanted them to. Very nice. Very happy. So I'm going to quick put a coat of satin on the head part here. And I'm wondering now, you can see I've got the spine and the rescue module all put together here, and I'm wondering if I probably need to disengage the rescue module, which I can because it's only in with a couple of magnets, and that way I can put the shoulders in place and give this whole thing a good coating of the clear, and then go do the final touches final touch-ups of paint, and we'll be good to go. So let's do that. It's finally warm enough outside where I can do some spraying. I'm playing with the moon base. Also, I'm using this texture stuff that I love so much. It's the wrong color, but I can paint gray. That's no problem at all, and I'll see if I can try to put some craters in it. Who knows? But we're coming down to the wire, and we should be getting this thing wrapped up pretty quick. Okay, this is maybe a little bit easier to see finally. I've cleaned off the desk to the point where all I've got left are the stuff that bare bones what I need to finish this kit. And that is going to be, I'm going to put a clear coat on this and get ready for the decals. I'm not going to clear coat because no decals go on the landing gear or on the engine bells themselves. What I can do is clear coat that, and while that is drying and getting ready for decals, I can be doing the last bit of tiny touchy paint that goes on there. And then after it is sealed in and flat coated, then I can put the metallic bits on, and I don't have to worry about the metallic bits getting any of the clear spray that might dull them. So the last bit I need to do is to glue the head module on, and I'm going to do that now, and then we'll be ready for a satin coat to go underneath the decals. Alrighty, it's time to start laying in some decals. We're going to start with the rescue pod because it has been drying the longest, and by the time we get done with all this, we should be ready to put the decals on that. So let's get a cracking. Now we've got basically this is the set that goes on this side, and that's the set that goes on the other side, and we're gonna take it from there. They're kind of tiny, so let's just see how it goes. Alrighty, I got the and it's so nice to see when a decal is properly backed in white that you can put it on a dark background and it comes out nice and clean and crisp. You can see some of these lines here that are kind of fuzzy, and that's because of the vinyl or not being down completely on the surface of the plastic, and how the paint can creep up underneath there. Notice how it's much sharper on this side and over here than it is right there, and that's something that I can go back in and tape that red area off and spray a gray into it to clean that up, make it more crisp. But that finishes the pod here, the VIP. I'm not sorry, not the VIP pod, but the rescue pod. I'll call it everything but it's by its right name before I'm done. But that is the rescue pod. And now it's time to put that back and pull the rest of the eagle up and put some of the decals on. Now the only two that have a specific, well, there's 6 that have specific points. There's two that go here, and then there is, if I can find it, yes, here you go. There is one of each of these that go around the side of the fuel tanks there. But that and this are the only ones that have specific known designated spots. And the rest of these are just go wild, go nuts, put them wherever you want type of things. Mostly on the shoulder pads, but some of them can go wrapped around the piping and all. Some of them actually go up on the head, but most of them go on the shoulder pads. Okay, I'm down to putting these Letraset decals on, which is what they were back in the day. They were rub-on transfers from Letraset, I should know, and they were architectural features. I should know. I had the full set of these back in the day, because that's back when I was working with Letraset. But unfortunately, the instructions do not give you any clue as to where they might go. The box which shows the numbered decals only shows the main ones, and they show the orange stripes and the little black dots. But beyond that, you are on your own. And even if you happen to have your instructions from the 22-inch, it is no good. So unless you have your 22-inch box that had the decal locations printed on that, you are on your own as far as figuring out where these go. So it's a question of make them look good, or you can drag your 22-inch kit off of the shelf and match them up one for one. To me, that's not an effective waste of my time. That's not an effective use of my time. So I'm just going to go and stick them down willy-nilly, both willy and nilly. And there we go. We are just one flat coat shy of being finished, which is not going to happen in time for me to get the video done. I'll probably pop that on this weekend, but I have got enough of this done that I am ready to stick a fork in it and call it a done kit for the week. But there you go. I really like this stand. As ungainly as this eagle was, whenever you saw it try to bank and it looked like a flying brick, I really like the way that you can do this formation stand. That's a smart thing that they did there, and it really breaks it up a little bit, gives it a little bit of a standoff from the stock kits, or the 12-inch Eagle, the one we've been building all this time. But really makes it look different enough that it makes it a much more dynamic display, and you don't spend all that time that you have on the landing gear only to sit it down on the ground where you can't really see up under it and appreciate the detail that's back there. Plus, you can really play with the angles on this and have some fun. It might need to be stiffened up just a little bit to keep it in position. It's not quite at the center of gravity. It's a little back heavy. But I think that you can get some pretty nice results with it. So there you go. We have a new gold standard for Eagles. You can take that 12-inch Eagle that you've had that you may not have built yet and give it to somebody else for Christmas, and go out and get yourself one of these, because this is a much superior kit in every aspect. Now, there's one thing that I will pick at, and you know me, I can always find one thing to pick at. Trust me, it's no picnic when you live on this side of my brain either. But, oh, I just realized I didn't put these guys on. So, no, I'm not quite done yet. But if I had to nitpick one thing, is that while I am very used to putting two pieces of plastic together and sanding the seam, this thing, just about every piece of it, I may have gotten a bad pressing. I may have gotten, you know, something off the front end of the production line, and they may have fixed it later. But there are a million cases where even in a single piece, the mold line on it is very visible, where they put two halves of the mold together before they inject the styrene. And particularly on these round tubes, it became very apparent. You could make a career out of just going through and re-rounding everything off and sanding it down and knocking off those seams. Like I said, I hope I was only a victim of a very preliminary pressing, because it is something that I don't think the average modeler should have to put up with. There was just an inordinate amount of seam of raised seams, or where the two molds didn't quite line up. They weren't exactly aligned and you got that flash. Yeah. If I had to throw a stone up in the air and nitpick something, that's what it would be. But I think this is a fine addition to your Eagle fleet. Can't think of a better way of spending Thanksgiving week other than eating turkey with my family and building Eagles on my desk. So, and there you go. There's a look at the new improved Eagle versus the old rundown, ugly, tiny, low quality, detailed Eagle. Have I said how much I like this new Eagle? No, I don't think I've adequately expressed how much I like this new Eagle. But I thought you might want to... I was going to drag out the 22-inch one again, but that would have taken up the whole table and, frankly, made it look a little bit less than, because the 22-inch to me is still the gold standard for Eagle builds. But this guy can hold his head high in any Eagle fight. I kind of like this now. This is nice. If I put this off to the side, it's kind of a forced perspective thing of smaller Eagle being further away. But there you go. Okay, so that's going to do it for this week. It's a short week. You know, I didn't get a lot done yesterday because of Turkey Day, but this wasn't all that demanding of a kit, I have to say. There you go. I did get the little jets put on the side, so everything is done. I have not put the final flat coat on it. I want to get these details. I want to let the decals. I want to let the decals dry at least overnight before I put the final flat coat on. Maybe I'll show you the final one at the beginning of next week's video. Who knows? So until then, when I think I may get myself in big trouble next week. Be good. I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. I hope you have a joyous start to the rest of your holiday season. And we'll see you here next time.